Today is Tuesday, February 4th, 2020, and I'm the interviewer. My name is Nicole Morin Scribner, and today I have the honor of interviewing Elizabeth, also known as Mantis Spiliopoulos. How did I do? Did I pronounce that okay?
Very well. Your voice is very, I bet it.
Okay. All right, so I usually like to start these interviews at the beginning and ask you to tell me about when and where were you born?
I was born in Biddeford, Maine, on April 17th, 1921. And you know what, on Hill Street, Corner Hill Street, and I forgot. But anyway, it's a cute little house. I go by there and I keep saying, oh, I like to knock on the door and say, hey, give me a tour. I think I will do that someday.
Uh-huh. So were you born at home?
Yes, I came very fast. My mother, well, years ago they had a house and they had like a little like a closet, and they used to keep their coal there, and she went up to get coal. And then she went to bed down, and so she took herself to bed, and she delivered me without any doctors or anything, because my brothers and sisters Dr. Dolph was their doctor. He delivered them, so I came by myself. I didn't want to be bothered by doctors.
You didn't want to be bothered by doctors. Now, so you probably were not your mother's first baby then.
No, my mother had seven siblings, and I was the third from the youngest.
So she had some experience with that. So she didn't have a midwife?
No, and Dr. Dolph was one of my father's best friends, and he'd come over, and he'd ask my mother to make him Greek food, and he was always at our house, so he's the one that would come over, so they never worried about a doctor. He'd always stop by. So I guess maybe she thought he'd be there when she delivered. But he fooled her.
Huh. Did she tell you that story?
Yes. She said it was about just before 12 o'clock, about 10 o'clock.
In the morning?
At night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I came very fast.
Wow.
And I'm still crazy.
So, tell me about your parents. Tell me about your father.
My father was a little guy like I am. He owned his own business for years, and then when he got older, he was a salesman. He read a lot, but he was very strict, very, very strict. And he was very active in the church and the community. That's about it.
Now, was he born in the United States?
No, he was born in the northern part of Greece on the Albanian border. And he came here when he was about 17. He and a friend of his escaped because it was during the Turkish, when they had taken over Greece, and they treated the Greeks and everybody else awful anyway. So they crossed the border into Italy, and then they came here, he and his friend. We did it on the sly because we were right close to Italy.
Wow. Do you know the name of the town or community?
Yes, Politani. And translated in English, it's the city of Anna, because the Empress of Turkey, her name was Anna. So they call it Poli, means the city of Anna, of course, the name of the.
Now, what's your father's name?
Andrew.
Andrew.
Man. Andrew, I can't say, because the Greek religion, every man has the same middle name. In other words, if you have 10 children, male or female, like my name is Elizabeth Andrew Mantis. Well, that's, I guess, the custom. That's more of a Turkish custom.
Huh. So, So he was 17, and you said he came over with
A friend of his, this Albanian man. Do you remember the Tito's?
Mm-hmm.
A relative of one of the Tito men.
Huh.
And they sneaked over because they wanted they had to sneak over the mountains to get to Greece because we're right. My parents' village is where the mountains are, separates, we're near Romania and all those places. And they sneaked over the mountain, which was very dangerous, and they got into Italy because we're right on the Italian border. And they got a boat. They came to America. Now, wasn't that daring? Two young men, not speaking a word of English.
Wow.
But he came to this country, went to school. And
now, did he ever share how his parents felt about that?
His father was dead, I think. But his mother, they say his mother was a beautiful, a lovely woman, very, very nice. But he never... but then my mother on the other side, we know more about her because she talked about her. And then she finally came over just before she died. She wanted to see my mother with her daughter-in-laws, and we met her.
Uh-huh.
She was the sweetest lady.
So, so you were talking about your father. So your paternal grandfather, you never knew him.
No, I never knew any of this. I knew my mother's side, but I knew his cousins and.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and when your father came over, did he come directly to Maine?
In those days, when when you came over on the boat, they decide where to send you. Some people were sent to California, some to Boston, some stayed in Boston, some came to Maine. Well, my father happened to come to Maine.
Huh. Do you know if he came directly to Biddeford, or did he go someplace else in Maine?
No, he came, when they landed, they sent him right away to wherever the destination was.
Did he ever share what it was like when he first got here?
He was very fortunate because, I don't know if you ever heard of Papa Loja, who's a mayor. His mother was a teacher, and he wanted to learn the language, so he went to her, and she's the one that taught him how to speak English. So I don't know, he had high school education in Greece, but here I don't know. Because I don't think he went, just to learn English here.
Mm-hmm. So he came here. I wonder where he lived if he came here by himself.
I never asked that question. Oh, I know where they lived. All the bachelors that came over, they would rent big apartments and they'd all get together. And where most of them lived, where the Saco River is. There used to be a building touching before you cross the bridge into Saco, there was a building that was about 3-4 stories. And all the peasants went there, I guess you'd call them. The foreigners went there. And then he decided to go to school and learn the language, and he got a place of his own. Now I remember. The name of Cottage Street was the name where I was born. Cottage and Hill Street. And I couldn't think. See, I'm getting old.
Well, you're doing well. So, do you know what he did for work when he first came?
I think he started his business right away. Started a soda, little soda fountain. And then he was a salesman.
So he started a soda fountain.
On Alpha Street. You know where the pizza parlor is? Remember the Truman block right in the corner where the lights are now? Right across the street, he had a little soda fountain. I have pictures, but my daughter-in-law took them. Behind the counter with all the old-fashioned, all the paraphernalia that they use. I don't know what. I'm going to ask for that so I can make a copy.
Do you know how long he ran that business?
Oh, several years.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what it was called? Mm-hmm.
I guess it was called the Mantis Drugs, because they sold drugs too. Legal drugs.
Prescription drugs.
Yes, legal.
Mm-hmm. And so he did that for a while, and you said...
He did, and then he kept changing, getting another business too.
Mm-hmm.
Then he retired, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He was very active in the church, so he kept himself busy.
Uh-huh. So you started telling me about your mother. What's your mother's name?
In Greek, it's Vasiliki. And in English, they called her Bessie, which I don't know where they got that name, Vasiliki. But Bessie somehow don't go together. But I had a beautiful mother, a very nice mother, very soft-spoken and very... She had 7 children, and she put up with all of us.
What was her family name?
Gianaros. Giannaros.
Now, you told me she was born in Greece as well?
Yes.
From the same
The same
area?
village, yes.
The same village as your father?
Came. See, our village is, like I said, right on the, Athens is on one side, you go over the mountain into our village.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we've been invaded by the Turks and by the Albanians and every other nation, because we're right on the border.
Now, did
No, it's all right, I've got my...
Did they meet over there?
Oh, they didn't meet. Marriages were proxy. You didn't know your husband till the day you married him.
So tell me the story about about your parents' marriage.
My father had one brother, Anthony. Well, he came to America very young, and he'd go to Greece, and he was a show-off, I guess, and it was up in like a little village, on the side of the mountain. And my father used to ride a horse, and my mother she'd see him go by, and she fell in love with him. And then the family, they were arranged marriages. They didn't marry who they wanted. But luckily, she got the man.
Now, but he came here when he was 17.
17, yeah.
Was he married then?
No, but he kept going back to see his mother. His mother was widowed. I don't know much about his father because he was young when his father passed away. Too bad I have a cold. I'm so hoarse and you can't understand.
No, like
he kept going back to Greece every year to see his mother.
Oh, he did. He kept going back to Greece every year.
And then they arranged, the marriages. You didn't pick your husband; they picked them for you.
So on one of the trips, he went over there and the marriage happened. And then they decided to come back here?
Well, he came back. My mother didn't want to leave Greece because I don't blame her. She couldn't speak a word of English, and God knows what, in those days, what they said about America. So she finally decided, because she had one son in Greece, and they decided to come home. So, and then the rest of the children were born here.
Mm-hmm. Now, so both your parents spoke Greek?
Yes.
Did you ever learn how to speak Greek?
Oh, I speak Greek very, very well.
You do? Did you speak Greek in the home?
Yes, at home. Our parents would make us, we could speak among, well, when we were at the table or when our parents were there, we had to speak Greek. We went to Greek school. So we had no choice. I speak Greek pretty good.
So tell me about Greek school.
Oh, that was something. We'd come home from regular school at 3 o'clock. We'd go home and have a quick little snack, and then we'd go to school from 4 to 7. And we learned, it's like the Catholic school. We learned religion and all the other subjects you learn in the regular school, but religion was in those days quite important.
So was that how many students were there?
Oh, there were quite a few. I'd say about 20, 30 students. And the priest, well, they had a teacher, but then when he left, the priest taught school and also performed the services in church. Isn't that awful? All day long, the poor man didn't have a chance to.
Now, where was the Greek school?
You know where Emory School is? Corner of Emory School and Main Street. There was a store in front of that, and then the church was set in. But they condemned the church because there was 2 floors. There was the upstairs, like a balcony, and it started to shake. So they bought a new church. They bought a church on Jefferson Street, corner Jefferson, and I forgot. I'm getting older. Yes.
Not that far from City Hall, is that correct?
Yes, right. You know where the courthouse is, right next to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's run now by the Serbians.
Now, how did you get there?
We walked.
You walked.
We did a lot of walking. We didn't have cars. We used to walk. We lived, like I said, down the end of the street, really. It's not too far from here. And we'd walk to the movies every Saturday. We'd walk to school. We didn't have buses like the younger generation had. The snow would be 2 feet. 2 feet of snow. We'd have to walk through whether we liked it or not.
Mm-hmm. That was a long day of school if you went after your regular day of school.
But, you know, you don't mind it, actually, because when you have a lot of friends, there's always recess, and it's a break.
Mm-hmm. So where did you go for regular school?
Oh, I went to Washington Street. I went to Emory School, and I went to Birch School and Biddeford High School. And then I went to New York with my sister, and I finished.
So what do you remember about elementary school?
Oh, I remember all my teachers. And my favorite was Miss Goodwin in the 1st grade and Miss Milliken in the 5th grade. Oh, my God, they were adorable. They were really cuddly. And they were very gentle with the children. Don't forget, they had a lot of, kids that couldn't speak Greek. Couldn't speak English, so they had to teach them how to. The 1st grade must have been horrible for the 1st grade teachers because the French went to parochial school and they spoke French. The Greeks went to parochial school. We spoke Greek. So do you know what it must have been like for that? I remember her. She had to teach us how to speak English because we didn't speak English at home, don't forget, at the beginning. Isn't that amazing how they did it? And now you can't. They don't want to do anything.
So how did the Greek children just hang around with the Greek children, or did you pretty much intermix?
They all had, they were all very clannish. The Greek hung around together, the French hung around together, and the whatever other nationality. But when we got into high school, because they all went to parochial school, the Catholics, but we didn't get friends. We really didn't become. We knew each other. We'd play in the neighborhood, but we didn't dare go into their homes, or they thought we were barbarians anyway. The French thought the Greeks were barbarians.
What did you think? What were the perceptions by the Greeks of the French?
Well, my parents never said anything, but you could see they weren't close. When they started to get close is when they went to school. Then they had to, get along.
Mm-hmm. So, do you remember, was it hard learning to speak English?
No, because don't forget, at that age, 6 years old, we have a very curious mind. We didn't speak much English, but we were fortunate we had a teacher that was very understanding. Most of the Greeks that graduated were top students. So we must have learned something.
Mm-hmm. Any stories that you remember in elementary school of things that stand out in your mind when you think about it?
Yes. This is funny. In the 7th grade, we had a miss. I don't want to mention her name just in case. She was a spinster, and we couldn't wear lipstick. We couldn't put nail polish on, and she was very strict. We had to go and make sure our knees were covered, and so don't forget the French girls grew up very fast because they didn't go to. Well, let's see how. Yeah, they didn't they went to school till they were 16, but half of them went to parochial, and then. So we had one little French girl that was way ahead of us. She was quite old. When I say old, 16 years old. That's in the 7th grade. And she used to say no polish and no lipstick, but this girl decided she was going to wear nail polish. I don't know why that stuck in my mind. And she took her into the bathroom, was trying to scrape the nail polish, and she was screaming. The whole building shook. Why would I remember something stupid like that?
Well, it made an impression. Now, one of the things that I heard when I've interviewed people in the parochial schools is that, particularly once you got to the junior high, the girls and the boys were separated. Was it like that at your school?
No.
No?
No, no, it was... the Greeks weren't that... Of course, I guess they had... We were different. Like, I spoke to him, I had a Bible. I think I told him he could borrow it, and I haven't had it. It's still not there. He was telling me that when he went about my age, I had a Bible when I graduated, when I used to be a Sunday school teacher, and they presented us with a Bible. And I had it on the table one day, and he's old, and I'm old. And this man was about my age. And he says, can I touch the Bible? Now, we always read the Bible, but the Catholics weren't allowed to read the Bible when they would. So he says, can I turn, there's a certain chapter all my life, he said, I wanted to read. Can I read it? And I said, yes. And he read it. And all I remember is chapter 27. What it's all about, I don't know, because I don't pay that much attention.
Huh.
But I haven't got the book, my Bible yet, back.
Now, did you have uniforms, or
no? We didn't have to.
What did you wear to go to school?
No, we'd come home, like I said, from regular school. And go home, have a little lunch, and go to the big school.
But there was no other than the dresses had to be a certain length.
Well,
but there was no special.
In those days, we didn't show legs. We had to cover our knees. So that was no problem. And we couldn't wear pants either.
Now, when did you have time as kids to play?
We had a lot of fun. There were a lot of trees. In the olden days, there were all the streets were lined with trees. And in the fall, the leaves would drop. And they didn't, not like now, they didn't pick them up, they'd leave them there. And we used to play and hide in there. We had a lot of fun when we were kids. We'd be out we didn't have any cars, so we'd have to play in the neighborhood. We used to go to the park and skate. We'd clear up a pond. There was a pond, we'd clear it up. We'd ice skate. And then we couldn't afford skates because nobody did in those days. We used barrel staves, we'd use those for skis. We improvised. They used to put straps and all that. We had fun. We had our fun. But we were very close. The whole neighborhood we were very friendly.
Now, what was the neighborhood like? Was the neighborhood pretty homogeneous? Was it pretty much all people of Greek ancestry in your neighborhood?
Well, just Greeks and French mostly. And there was maybe one or two. Well, the street is very short. It's a little short street. Mostly French and Greek. Maybe one Italian here, and maybe, a few. The Jewish synagogue was right on the straight in front of our street at the top was a synagogue. The St. Andrew's Church was down the end of the street, and the Greek church was where the synagogue was down the end of the others. They were facing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we got along.
So you did, in terms of in the neighborhood and playing with kids in the neighborhood, you all intermingled?
Not at first. When we started to intermingle is when we got into high school. Because the French people usually, in grammar school, they went to parochial school. But once we started to intermingle, things got serious. A lot of them married when they got out of high school, so it turned out fine.
Uh-huh. Did the families ever, put restrictions about who you could hang around with?
Yes, the Greeks were very strict. We couldn't go out with boys, but we did on the sneak, of course. We oh my God, if we went out with a Frenchman or if a Frenchman went out with a Greek, all hell would, excuse my language, would break loose. But they did it, and then they got into high school, and like I said, once we got into high school, things changed for the better.
So, in terms of when you were a teenager, what did you used to do for fun?
Like I said, we used to go to the park, clear spots, skate, and we lived on a hill, so we had our barrel staves for skiing. Don't think the young generation had all the fun we had it too. And then we, like I said, we'd go to the park and we walked the park. We used to go to the park, Prospect Street. God, it was beautiful in those days. Have you ever been there inside the park? Oh my God, there was so much going on those years. They had, you must have heard of Paint Show's band. Well, every Sunday there was like a little hill, and there was like a gazebo, and Paint Show's band would play, and all the families would get together, and they'd have a lunch. They'd prepare a lunch, and they'd go there. The kids would be romping and, having fun. And we used to watch the band, but if you went further up, like I said, they had ponds, and we used to ski here and there. But there's a spot in the park that if you stood on top of it, you could see the whole, as far as Old Orchard and Camp Palace. It was gorgeous. We had fun.
Now, you mentioned something to me about playing hooky before.
Well, like I said, on a good snowy day, or a good cold day where we could skate or ski, we used to. But I was a good student, so.
How'd you get away with that, though? They didn't take attendance at school?
They did, but they never sent it home. So I was a good student, so as long as I got my work done, I don't think they cared. They probably did, but...
Now,
I was a hellion.
You were. You want to give me an example of what you did as a hellion?
I mean, I was active, and where my sisters were very refined. And I was a tomboy.
What was it like to be a tomboy back then?
Well, like we'd go skating. The ladies would skate or ski because they were afraid they'd hurt themselves, I guess. But we were a little bit more daring than the others. But we also had a lot of friends. We were never alone. We had 5, 6 friends at least at a time. And now they're all gone. My best friend, we were friends from the time we were little. And I went to Massachusetts when I married. I came back, and we continued our friendship until she died. We were inseparable. We'd take trips together.
Now, was she Greek American as well?
Yeah. She was Greek American. Her name was Chris. Chris Firoun, yes, I used to love her. A very nice girl.
Now, did you ever work when you were in high school? Yes, I worked at the prep school
as an efficiency expert for I was taught by an efficiency expert for about 2 or 3 years, and then when I married, I went to Massachusetts. My husband didn't want me to work, And then after my son was born, he was going to school, they had, you remember grants? There was one down the end of our street, and I went and I applied for a job, and I got it. So I came home, and my husband wouldn't talk to me for weeks because he, old-fashioned, he thought he wanted his wife to stay home. But once I became independent, I didn't mind it. I decided I was going to be the boss for once.
So before you got married, what was dating like?
Oh my God, we weren't allowed to date. They used to make matches. But
even in your generation in the U.S., they used to make matches.
Oh my God, we weren't allowed. They used to arrange marriages. My husband was in the service. He was from Massachusetts. And I met him in church because I was active in church. And I got him involved in a few things. And we started going out. So when he came in the service, of course he went overseas. And he had sent me my diamond, and I didn't want it. I says, I can't accept it because I wasn't ready for marriage. And he says, well, keep it till I come home, and then you can decide. So we did. My parents never knew I had that ring.
Now, so even when you were in high school, people weren't dating? There were no dances?
We used to do it on the sly, of course.
There were no dances?
Yeah, we could go to school dances, and we could do that, belong to different clubs, like the Glee Club and the gym and all that, but we were not allowed to date. That's the only thing.
Did you ever go to Old Orchard?
Oh, gosh, yes. We used to pay 15 cents on the bus, and we'd come home from work, and we'd put on our bathing suits and a trench coat over it, and we'd take the bus, and we'd spend a couple of hours with our friends. Oh, yes, we did all that. And then my family, my uncle had a cottage at Camp Palace, so we'd be there. We used to spend weekends there. And then we started going, when we had cars, we started going to Biddeford Pool and Fortune Dogs.
I'm going to back up a little bit. When you were growing up, what was family life like? What were some of your traditions?
We all had to sit down at the table together. And we couldn't talk unless we were spoken to. But the food, I wasn't a good eater, but the food was very good if you like to eat. My mother was a fantastic cook. Now they used to make, did you ever hear pita, spinach? She'd make her own, the layers, and very, very thin. She used to make a lot of that. But then my poor mother, my father had a lot of bachelor friends, and they used to come to the house, and there was always a group in my house, 7 children and strangers. They didn't have their wives, they were alone, so they dropped by at supper time, and my mother would feed them. They were smart. It wasn't just my parents. I think all the Greeks were like that, because they came to this country and they didn't bring their wives. Isn't that awful, huh? And they'd go once or twice a year and impregnate them, and then they come back, and then a lot of them did that.
So their wives were still in Greece, some of them.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Like, I had an uncle, his wife didn't want to, their wives didn't want to come. But they finally came here. They had grown children when they came.
Now, once your mother had moved here, did she and your father go back to Greece regularly?
Her father didn't come. Her father didn't come to this country.
But did your mother and your father, after they immigrated to the U.S., did they ever go back to Greece?
No, my mother they never did. Because we couldn't anyway. The Albanian border there was the war going on, and we're on the other side right on the border on the Albanian side. So we were like prisoners in that part of the political prisoners. I wished I had that book I'd give you, but somebody borrowed it and I forgot who did.
Huh.
This, my sister's brother-in-law, his brother was a prisoner of war for 40 years because he was a spy for the Greeks, and they caught him and his father. And he wrote, I wished I'd give you the book to read so you could learn a lot about, but I don't know who I gave it to. That was 20 years ago and I never got it back, so.
Now, did your parents really make an effort to make sure that you understood, appreciated the Greek culture?
Yes. They taught us, like I said, we'd go to American school, and then at night we'd go to Greek school. We had to go to church every Sunday. They were very religious.
Mm-hmm. Any special holiday traditions that you remember growing up?
Yes. Oh my God, our Easter it's a fantastic holiday for us. We dye eggs and we get together. We have a big feast. We go to church midnight. We go to midnight mass, and then we come home at 12 o'clock, and we'd have a feast at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. Then we'd get up, we'd go to bed, we'd get up and have another meal. We eat well.
Special foods?
Yes. My mother made her own stuff, her bread for her stuffing, which we still do, my family. I make it for my nephews, because when we go to their house, they want me to make the bread. It's a special bread, unleavened, and we cut it up in little pieces. We make a big round loaf about that big. We cut it up and we put all kinds of chicken livers. What else? Spices. We have our own certain spice of the Greeks that they have. So we always eat well. Holidays are a big thing, Easter and Christmas and New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
And name days. Oh, name days.
Tell me about name days.
Now, they celebrated whatever your name was, certain saints, on Saints' Day. If your name was, let's say, St. Peter's, that Sunday, everybody in the city would celebrate. And they'd cook and bake for weeks to get everything. And then you go from one home to the other, everybody that's named Peter, let's say Mike or whatever. And they'd have little parties, they'd dance and they'd eat. The men would drink and get, that's yours. The men would drink and get feeling good. And then they'd break glasses while they were dancing.
So talk to me about music and dancing.
The music was they had, the Greek music, most of the songs, the lyrics what happened in true life. It wasn't like here they just write a song that isn't like, it's funny. Now certain parts of Greece, like where we come from, it's like a dirge, but it tells you the story, so-and-so met so-and-so, they got married, and then they had so many children, and then he died, and, it was crazy. But that's the type of music we have.
And a lot of dancing, too?
Oh, yes, we danced a lot. We had Greek dances. We had really a lot of dancing. We danced a lot.
Was that in the homes, or did you get together in halls?
Oh, we had halls. Every holiday, 2-3 times a year, they'd have gatherings we'd have Greek dances, and we'd all gather there and dance and have fun. We had fun. It's not like now. I mean, it wasn't as exciting as it is now. We weren't allowed to date.
Was it mostly when the did the Greek families make it a point to gather together?
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
They used to, like I said, they'd prepare food for weeks. And then the day of the party, the men used to dance and they'd break glasses, and all the old Greek ladies would go shopping during sales at the 5 and 10 cent stores. They had cheap glasses and they'd buy them because every year the men they'd get drunk. Yeah, they did get drunk. They said they didn't, but they used to. And they'd break the glass, they'd smash the glass.
What do you remember about going downtown? Did you go downtown much?
Yes. Oh my God, that was a big thing for a Saturday night. We used to all get together with our finery, walk up and down Main Street. Then we'd stop there used to be a couple of soda fountains and the Puritan, and then there was one further up. a Coke was 5 cents, and we'd buy a Coke and we'd sit there all night talking. And then what's the name of there was a diner on Franklin Street. You remember that? Was you here when they had, not the all-day diner, but the one further down? And we used to get we were always there every night, for 15 cents, a bagel, an English muffin, with all the butter you wanted, and pure maple syrup for 15 cents. And we'd go there and order a cup of coffee and our bagel, a muffin. English muffin, was it a bagel, I guess? And we'd sit there and we'd spend the night. And we'd be about 6, 7, 6. We had friends. One thing about those days, we were never alone.
Mm-hmm.
See, now you see the kids, they don't know what to do. We had a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first radios that came. Oh, God. I remember the first radio. And they had the Cats America Kids and the Shadow Knows Best. Oh, my God. We'd leave. That's the only time the radios wouldn't go on till about 5, 6 o'clock, about 5 o'clock at night. And we'd be outside playing, we'd run to my house because we're the only ones that had a radio. And we'd sit around and listen to the Shadow. And everybody we were so frightened, we'd all cringe out of the corner.
Now, was that pretty much the family that gathered together, or was it friends too?
No, all the friends, because not too many had radios in those days. So it would be about maybe 10 kids that would be outside playing, and they would run in the house to hear the Shadow and all the crazy.
Huh. Now, do you remember when TV first came out?
Yes, and I remember. Yes, I was married at the time, and not too many people had one, so they didn't have TV, just in the evenings, certain evenings at first. And they'd have big parties. They'd go gather, they'd all cook something and bring it to the host. And we'd all sit down and eat, and then when it'd get dark, about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, we'd go sit in the darkened room, very dark, the shades were pulled down, and the black as whatever. And we used to sit there and watch TV. I remember Dagwood. Did you ever hear Dagwood? What was her boyfriend's name? He only came up to here, and she was very voluptuous. And he'd stick his nose, and we used to think, oh my God, this is terrible. I was married then too.
Huh. Did your mother work outside the home?
Very little, because she had 7 children. She couldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
She worked for a little while when we grew up, and then didn't last too long.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So
that's my mother. Wasn't she pretty?
She's very pretty. I definitely want to take a picture of that so that we have it in our collection.
And then I have another one with a sister-in-law. They're both pregnant, and I thought that was pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was she was pretty.
So let's see. I think we talked about your grandparents on your father's side. Now, what about the grandparents on your mother's side? What do you know about them?
Yes, I know them very well. My grandfather was very well educated. He spoke 7 languages, and he was.
Now, he was born in Greece.
He was born in Greece. He didn't want to come to this country because my great grandfather had a winery in Turkey, and they had enough money. Those years ago, way back, if you had money, they used to educate the men, but not the women. So my grandfather spoke 7 languages fluently. He was very snobbish, first of all. Handsome man. I wish I had his picture to show you. He was about over 6 feet tall, and Greek men were not too tall. And my grandmother was petite like I am. He was very strict. We had to behave. When he was around, we couldn't act up at all. We had to be little ladies. And
so he did come to the U.S.?
He came when he was older. He and my grandmother came. In fact, nobody, and my aunts came. But my grandmother died about a few months after she got here. So I didn't get a chance to really, we just saw her a couple of times.
So they came to the United States after your mother was married.
My mother was married, had grown children.
So they came later on in life.
Yes, because they didn't want to come. And then one of the wives, one of my mother's brother, told his wife, if you don't come to America with me, I'm going to leave you because I don't want to come here every year to see you. The men would go there once a year and they'd impregnate the woman, and then they'd come back and go back and start all over again.
Now, did you go to Greece? Have you been to Greece?
Yes.
Did you go as a child?
Where?
Did you go to Greece when you were a child?
No, I didn't go till I've been to Greece 3 times. I love it. And I've also been to Turkey because the Turks and the Greeks they're close by.
So I want to go back to the thread of the story about your husband. First of all, what's his name?
Harry. In Greek it's Harold Lambert. I met him, like I said, he was in the war, and I met him at church.
Now, if he was in Massachusetts, but you met him at church here in Biddeford?
He was stationed here. The war was just, remember they were, they enlist you in the army, and he was in the army, they sent him here.
There was a base here?
Yeah, in Saco.
There was a base in Saco?
Yeah, an army base. And they sent him to Saco, and I met him. I was very active in the church. All my friends were. We'd have all kinds of clubs, and we had every Flag Day we'd have all the nationalities would get together, and they'd have a big parade with flags, all kinds of flags flying. And they had asked the Greek soldiers to help, and there were 2, 3 Greek boys that came, and I had him carry the Greek flag. So he says to me, "I'll never forget you." That's how he liked me right away, I guess. I have a big mouth, that's why.
So you're telling me something I don't know. So tell me about, there was a base, an army base?
In Saco.
In Saco?
The armory. There's an armory in Saco. And I guess they used to train them there, and then they'd go overseas.
Huh. Where did he go? So he came here for basic training or whatever, and then he went to the church?
It was in the army, and the priest used to went to the headquarters in Saco and said, make the Greek boys come to church. So there were 2 or 3 of them. So they had to come to church. That's how we got to know them,
Now, did you, not knowing the dating rituals back then, did you invite him to your home to meet your parents?
Not right away, because his best friend went out with a friend of mine, and we used to get together at her house. Because we weren't allowed to go out with boys. That was considered they thought we were goody-goody, but believe me, we did a lot of things we shouldn't have done.
So, how long was it before he got to meet your parents?
When he came back from the service, when he came back from overseas, he was very close to when he was here. We'd go out with my oldest sister and her husband, and he had a car, and we'd go to different places in Portland and Gunquit to eat, different places. And they loved him. My sister and my brother-in-law loved him, and he'd stay with them. But I didn't bring him home till after he came back from the service. I had his ring, and I had to show it to my parents finally.
So in your generation, then, it was not arranged marriages.
It was.
It was. So how did you arrange your arranged marriage?
Yes, and my father thought it was terrible to think that I picked my husband. Can you see up there? That's my husband.
Yeah, I want to get a picture of that.
And those are my 2 sisters.
Uh-huh, wow. Those are beautiful pictures.
And that's him when we got older on the floor.
Oh, yes.
I was 60. I was in my 60s. We were in our 60s in that picture. And I thought we both looked pretty good.
I would say so.
No, because...
So tell me about his military service. Where...
Oh, you want to see his medals?
I will. I want to continue the interview, but yes, I can take pictures of his medals.
He was a Patton's Army. Oh, he had the Purple Heart. He had the for bravery. Well, he has my daughter-in-law made it into a collage, and he's got all kinds because he was in quite a few wars. He was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was in all these big battles.
How long was he away?
About 2-3 years, I think. 2 years anyway.
Do you remember what years those were? What year it was?
1944. 1944, I think they went overseas. When they went to France. And then he was in Germany and Czechoslovakia. He was with Patton, wherever Patton went.
Mm-hmm. How did you stay in touch?
We had, now, I could send them letters. And for a while, we had special mail. They didn't have regular letters. So they could come through, but a lot of times I went here for, maybe a letter would take 6 weeks to come, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. He was wounded and I didn't even know about it. By the time I got the news, he was...
That must have been difficult.
I wasn't engaged. See, he wanted to give me a ring before he went overseas. But I was smart enough to say no so that I could go out dancing. And because a lot of girls got engaged and they didn't want to cheat on their husbands. But I could do it if I wanted to go out with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like when you'd get a letter?
Well, the mailman, we're familiar with small towns, the mailman, when he'd scream, you could hear him down the street, because we didn't get too many. They had a special kind of mail. You just kind of open it, and because it had to be open to be, before I got a letter, well, you could see where there's something they didn't want me to read, they'd scratch it. If they put black ink over it, and you couldn't see it. Because a lot of times you'd say, well, I'm in the city. Well, right away they'd scratch it. So you'd get a letter and you'd read a sentence and then you'd skip 2 sentences and then you'd go back to another, back and forth. So I never got a full letter. I should have kept those. It was like an Instagram. I should have kept them. But I threw them away. Everybody tells me what an awful thing I did. Because you'd get the letter, now you didn't know where he was, because every time he'd mention anything pertaining to the war.
Now, do you know if somebody double-checked your letters like that too before it got to them?
I don't know. I really don't know. I never asked, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But they must have.
Now, did he share when he came back? Did he share? Is there anything you can remember about what he used to say about that experience?
He never spoke about the war.
Never spoke about it?
Because he was wounded 3 times, and he was through a lot of battles. And they tell me that, well, I also heard it they used to talk about it in the news. The ones that really fought hand-to-hand, because he's got a medal for that, hand-to-hand combat, they never talked about the war. Because all his company was wiped out except 3 guys, the original company, his company that went overseas. It was bad at the beginning. We lost a lot of nice young men.
Wow. So most of his service, you said, was in Germany.
Czechoslovakia, France, all those. Mm-hmm. They started off in France and then they kept going up.
And then, do you remember when you got the word that he was coming back?
Well, the war was over and they didn't know either. But when he finally did, he did send me a letter. And the other day I've come to think of it, I didn't want to get married before we went overseas. I didn't want to get engaged because I didn't want to be tied down. So he sent me a diamond. No, he sent me a ring and a necklace. And he says, I want to send you a ring. He did send me a ring, but it was an onyx with a diamond. And he says, I want to send you a diamond, but you haven't said yes, because he kept asking me to get married. I kept saying no. So, but he says, I want you to wear this for the time being, because when I get back, he says, you're gonna really have to wear a diamond. I didn't want to get engaged because I didn't want to be tied down. A lot of my friends, they couldn't do anything.
So then, were you happy or wondered when you got the word he was coming back?
Well, we didn't know exactly till the last minute, so. But the thing, when he was wounded, I didn't hear from him for 3 months. That's the time I was really concerned, because they couldn't let you know. And then he was in the hospital for a few times. But that's the only time I worried. I thought he must be dead, But because I did lose a couple of friends that got killed that I knew well.
Now, when he came back, where he was originally from Massachusetts,
Massachusetts.
So he went back to his home first?
Yes, but he stayed here for a couple of months. And then we got married, and then we went to Massachusetts. But he kept staying. He was here a lot. We had to get reacquainted, don't forget. He was very quiet, though, after the war. Never talked through the war. He was very quiet. Because he was wounded 3 times, so he must have...
Now, do you remember what it was like when they declared that the war was over?
Oh, yes. I remember coming home from work, and it was so exciting, and so... The people were so jubilant. They were out in the streets dancing. They were so happy. They had all kinds of, what do they call those dances that people get together and they dance out in the streets. Every city. It was such joyous news that the war is finally over.
Now, when the war was going on, and you were stateside, obviously,
right.
How did that impact people's everyday lives?
Well, first of all, we didn't eat very well because food was rationed. Shoes, I love shoes because during the war, all we could get were 2 pairs of shoes, but they had leather, heavy cardboard soles, and they used to, they'd break, how they come apart. And then we'd have to take them to the cobblers, and he didn't have leather either, and it was awful because I used to love shoes. What else did we do? The food, of course. I remember butter. I wasn't much of an eater, so it didn't bother me really. To get butter, there used to be an S.K. Ames. The line would form from here, way, way, way down. It would take you maybe 2 hours to get to the head. And then when you got there, they'd run out. That was a sad part. Cold weather in the winter. And you'd say, well, I'm going to get butter at least. And then you got turn and they say, sorry, we're all out of it. But they had, that was supposed to be, you had to know people to get margarine. Now, margarine was white, and they'd give you a yellow capsule. And you'd have to beat it for an hour to, oh my God, that was horrible. And Spam, I hate Spam. I never liked it, but you couldn't get, if you got a can of Spam, people thought that they hit the jackpot. So when my husband came home from the war, his buddy had a grocery store. One day he called me in the back and he says, give this to Harry, give it to Harry. So I went home and I cooked it, and I remember putting brown sugar and mustard, And my husband took one look at it. My husband was very quiet. He didn't yell too much. He just picked up the Spam, went to the rubbish can, he just opened it and plop. He said, don't serve it again. That's all they ate. And it was horrible. Spam. I don't care for it. I never had it.
Huh. Now, was there something about covering windows or something?
Oh, yes, at night, because they were afraid of the people, the bombing, the bombings. We had a lot of spies on this coast, too, because that was my husband's job before he went overseas. They used to guard they had to guard the shore because they'd come in those little U-boats, just one person. And they caught quite a few. It was very quiet. Nobody knew about it. I didn't know about it till the war was over that he had captured a few.
So that there were spies and U-boats
And
raiding up and down
and they'd mix in with the, with the regular people. So who knows who they were?
Huh.
They used to call them U-boats, I think. Not U-boats, or was it? There was just one man could fit in it, and they could hide and they'd come at night because our shores were very well guarded. They'd have a lot of soldiers covering the coast because that's what they used to do.
Huh. It's hard to imagine that.
It's a wonder they all came back because the Germans were. If you got caught by a German, oof. And like I said, he got wounded 3 times too. So.
Did that end up impacting what he could do for work?
My husband never even didn't want to have anything to do with the army but after we got married, he used to limp. And I used to tell him, why are you limping? He didn't say anything, but one day he came home and his leg was bandaged. He had shrapnel all over his body from when he got wounded. He had it in his eye. They had to take his eye. Oh my God! See, my husband never spoke, never he never worried me, never. He figured it's my business. Who cares? And they pulled his eye down to take the shrapnel out, and his leg. They cut a big piece of his. And they went through a lot.
Big sacrifice for us.
Never talked about the war. I don't know. We heard it from his friends. Everything we heard after he saved a few lives because he was a staff sergeant. And friends of his, when they found, people would call to try to find him because he didn't belong to any he didn't want to have anything to do with the war once it was over. And when they found out, they came here. And when he died, they told me how he, what he did. I really didn't know much till they wanted my son to know that why he got his Purple Hearts and his medals. I have to show you his medals.
I want to see them. Now, were you there when they were those medals were presented to him?
He wouldn't accept them, so they mailed them. They try to put, when you do something great in the army, you get the honor on the battlefield. He wouldn't accept it. So when he came home one day, I found in the rubbish. Good thing I noticed it, a big box, and I opened it, and it was medals. I didn't know he had those medals. He wouldn't talk about them, and he didn't want them. He threw them away, and I found them I found them in the rubbish barrel again. And my daughter-in-law, when I showed them to my son and daughter-in-law, she decided she was going to make a collage, and I'll show it to you.
Do you know if he ever shared why he felt that way with anyone at any point in his life?
All he told me was out of the original group that went over, only 3 returned. And one of the survivors just got a letter from his wife, and he had 3 children from New York, and she says, I'm leaving you for another man. And he wanted to get killed, and Harry said he was hoping a bomb would come and just annihilate him. He was so heartbroken. I don't know if he got killed at all in the end. But the original troop, only 3 came back.
So on a more positive note, so once he got back and you guys got reacquainted, tell me about the planning and the wedding. And
yes, he came back, and of course I was religious then. Hope the priest doesn't hear this. And we couldn't get married during certain holidays, like during Christmas, Easter time, and certain holidays. And he came back in November, and he wanted to get married right away, but we couldn't because the church, like I said, we had to wait till the church gave us permission. And he was very anxious. He stayed in the house, my mother's house. I'd sleep at my sister's house, but he'd be at my house during the day. My mother adored him. Very nice boy. He had a hard life. His mother died when he was 3.
So then you planned your wedding.
We planned our wedding. And there's my wedding picture.
It's beautiful.
And those are my two sisters. They were pretty.
Mm-hmm. Where was the wedding? Was the wedding here in Biddeford?
Here in Biddeford. And it was a blizzard. We couldn't leave on our honeymoon. We had the reception at the Bachelor Hotel in Old Orchard. And it was such a big blizzard that we couldn't even get out. So we had to spend the night there, only for us. Everybody else had to go home. But they had a special room. We froze to death. Literally, icicles were hanging from our home. It was so cold. Nice honeymoon to remember.
And where did you eventually go for a honeymoon?
We went to New York at a big hotel. And I saw Frank Sinatra. Well, I had seen him here, but we went to see Frank Sinatra when he was really famous. And I remember when he came on stage, all the young girls would run down the aisle and they'd yell, "Frankie, Frankie," and they'd pass out. Of course, that was put on, I'm sure it wasn't. Hey. But you know who my favorite was? I liked Tony Martin. And I I love Nat King Cole. Oh, God, I used to love him. When he died, I cried. Who else?
You saw them in New York?
Yes, I saw him in Old Orchard anyway, before he became famous.
So you saw Frank Sinatra in Old Orchard?
Yeah, he was with one of there were two brothers, the Waring brothers, I think. And he was with one of not the Waring brothers. See, I am forgetful. I'm forgetting things. Anyway, he was on, and there was a balcony way in the back. It got washed away. It's not there. Where the end of the pier is. There was an extension. They had a movie house and everything. And there was a balcony. The stage was here, just above. In other words, if you could bend down low enough, you could touch it. Scrawny, ugly, horrible. I could never have gone for him if I had a chance.
This is Frank Sinatra you're talking about.
Yes, it was horrible. Not good looking at all.
Could he sing?
Well, people thought he was good, but I used to like Tony Martin better. And I love, what's his name, the black fellow there.
Nat King Cole, you were saying?
Oh, Nat King Cole was when he died, part of me went with him, I swear. No, he was good.
Huh, that's interesting. Anybody else interesting that you saw on the pier in Old Orchard?
Yes, I saw with the Waring brothers, all the big bands, Harry James and all of them. We saw all of them.
So did you go there very often?
Well, just Saturday nights they had dances. And we didn't go every Saturday night. We couldn't afford it. We barely made enough money at working. We used to go and we dance. It was fun. We had fun. We didn't have always as much as they have now, but what little we had, we took advantage of it.
Now, when you used to go on the pier in Old Orchard, was that after you were married or before you were married too? Oh, before.
Before. My husband didn't dance.
So once you were married, you settled in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Was that difficult for you to leave Biddeford?
Yes. I found it because I didn't know anybody there. But my husband was good. Every weekend he'd tell me, "Why don't you go home and put me on the train?" And I'd come to Maine. And then I finally got used to it, so I didn't come as often.
So you'd take the train to go back and forth?
Yeah, I'd get the train in Gardner. I'd go to Boston, and I'd hang around for an hour or two, and then have lunch or something, dinner, and then I'd come.
Now, where in Massachusetts were you?
Gardner, Mass. It's
okay.
You're familiar with Worcester and with Leominster, all those places. About 12 miles from there.
What was that community like compared to Biddeford?
Well, I can't say there was that different because Gardner were mostly Polish and here they were mostly French. So, the same ideas, only different customs, but you're used to just one major nationality. But the Polish people, my husband's friends were all Polish. They ate well. I used to love their. Well, I didn't like it then, but now I love it, and I don't make it anymore. Kapusta. Have you ever heard of it? It's cabbage and sauerkraut with sausage, Polish sausage. That was the dish in Gardner. Every place you'd go, and then what else? And boiled dinners. But food was not like it is now. They'd make a nice cake and for dessert, and that would be it.
Was there a Greek-American community in Gardner, Massachusetts? No?
But there was one in Worcester. They had dances. And in Fitchburg. I went to church in Fitchburg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask you where you were able to...
Fitchburg was 12 miles either way. But the reason I could go to Fitchburg, they had the buses there. My husband's uncle owned the bus terminal, so I could...
So what did your husband do for work once he got back from the service?
My husband went back to this. There was a place in a factory. They used to make stoves. And then he worked at Raytheon. He was a boss there for a while, but he couldn't work indoors. I don't know if you noticed, but I don't have too many doors because he really couldn't. He'd feel, well, because I guess he had to sleep in dig holes, and I guess they must have had. It wasn't just my husband, a lot of them. So.
Did you work when you were?
He didn't want me to work, but there was a little store, like, 5 and 10, and I used to work 2-3 hours a day because I knew the manager. He was so upset he said, I don't want to see your money, I don't want to see anything. So I'd take my money and I'd spend his, of course. But my son, I told him where I used to hide it, and I'd say, this is, if you need any money, I'm not around, but leave me a note. Boy, did I find a lot of notes. Mom, I took $5. Mom, I took $10.
So tell me about your children.
I had a lot of miscarriages, all little girls. Now I have one son, and he presented me with twin granddaughters and a little boy. 10 years later, a boy. And one of my granddaughters is married, and she has 2 little boys and a girl. Oh, they're adorable, but the great-granddaughter's she's cute. And then my other granddaughter do you know anybody in Sanford? Are you familiar with Sanford?
A little bit.
Well, the other one's getting married at the Bahamas, so we're planning on that wedding. And the boy's only, 23, he's not ready. I hope he's not ready for marriage. His kids are wild now.
No arranged marriages anymore.
Oh, are you kidding? Are you kidding?
Was it the parents who were responsible?
It was like that in Greece, and don't forget, they weren't that educated. The men were, but they were never home. They'd go to travel to different countries. That's how they were educated. My husband, like I said, my grandfather went to every school in Europe, and he could speak the languages, but so
Now, did you teach your son Greek or Greek culture?
Culture, yes, but the language, no, because my husband couldn't speak Greek. His mother died, and then they lived with the aunt and uncle, and she wasn't Greek, so they spoke English. But my mother taught him a few words, when he was very close to my mother. So she used to teach him.
Now, you told me the meaning of your husband's last name.
It means caveman. Son of a caveman.
Son of a caveman. You explained to me what...
Spilios is a house, a home. In the olden years back, generations before they had civilization. Spilios was a home. And Poulos is the son of, so it's the son of a caveman.
That's interesting.
Isn't that cute?
It is. Now, tell me about how did you stay connected? You said you used to come back periodically to Biddeford when you were living in Massachusetts.
At least twice a month sometimes.
Okay.
And he'd come and pick me up, and then we...
And when did you decide to come back to Biddeford?
Well, we lived in Gardner, which I said up in the mountains. He got very sick, and he almost died. And I never drove alone. I mean, I was a lousy driver, so I took lessons. But at the time, I drive, but he wouldn't let me behind the wheel. He'd say no. So one night he woke up, and he had been sick. He was operated a few times. So one night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, he woke me up. He says, I got to go to the hospital. So I went to sit at, because he wouldn't let me drive. And he said, you drive. And he was in the hospital for about a month. So he decided then, because I had to come every day, I'd go see him, my family would come. So when he got out of the hospital, he says, we're going to move to Maine. And that was it. He loved Maine, he loved the beaches and the lakes, and he liked all that.
And how did you feel about coming back to Biddeford?
Oh, I was overjoyed.
What is it about Biddeford that is particularly meaningful for you?
Well, years ago, like I said, the nationalities weren't close. They had their own groups. But now it's different. Now we have a lot of friends. I come back, you walk on the streets. Other cities, you got to take your car to, like I had to take the car to go downtown because we lived on top of a hill. Like here, I can walk to Hannaford. I can walk to Ray's Market. I'm a walker, by the way. I walk, the French cemeteries, and I walk that all summer long. I walk, if I'm not at the beach, I'm over there. So I walk 3-4. I used to walk 3-4 miles a day. I still do, but not right now, because it's winter. But in the summer, I walk the beach, and I've got my niece trained, and we walk together. She comes from Boston. She's a teacher there, and her family lives here, so we go to the beach. Mm-hmm. We walk about 5 miles in the summer. In the winter, sometimes I walk the drugstore or Mons.
Have you seen Biddeford change through the years?
Yes, a lot. Biddeford has turned out to be one of the most progressive cities in the country. I read an article in the Boston paper about it, and they said it is the coming city of New England. Because at one time, we didn't have all these, there were factories, but they were empty after the mills. Now, did you ever go in the factories? Isn't it amazing what they've done inside? You can walk from Biddeford across in the back. Now they're building condos there. I guess we're not going to be doing it anymore. You walk. It's beautiful. Biddeford first of all, they fixed the mills, like I said, into a beautiful area. It's changed a lot. The people now, I notice they blend in now. They're starting to really, because you see Greeks marrying Frenchmen, Frenchmen marrying, they're all mixed. So we can't say now they're all French. So the French people at one time, they wouldn't have anything to do with the other nationalities. But since they kept, intermingled, now it's a beautiful town. Look, we have a lot of nice stores. What else can we ask for? We can walk. We do. We can walk here. In other cities, you can't do this. I mean, they're too congested or too crowded or whatever. But here, it's good. And the people, like I said, are much friendlier than they used to be. What else? And people have improved their properties. At one time, everything was run down. Now I remember these old buildings, and I used to think, oh my God, they should knock them down. They're beautiful. People are starting to take pride in their community.
Now, what year did you come back to Biddeford?
Like I said, my husband got very sick.
What year was that?
That was in about 35, 40 years ago. He had cancer, and he was in the hospital, and I was alone because I didn't have any relatives there. And he used to worry about me driving by myself and going there every day to stay with him. That when he came out, the first thing he said, we're moving to Maine. Mm-hmm. We put up a home for sale, and then we came.
Now,
but we came here every summer. We're always in Biddeford weekends. But we love Lake Ossipee. My husband and I love Lake Ossipee.
Oh, okay.
And we used to rent every summer. And then we loved the beach, of course, Biddeford Pool and Fortune's Rock. So he liked it. And my husband was quite a swimmer because he taught the soldiers how to swim and protect themselves if they, how to make, like with their pants, they could make a life belt. There's so many tricks that when I heard this, I was amazed. They take their, if the boat, overturns or something, you tie your legs, and that's like a buoy. And what else? That I remember. That impressed me. That was a big impression.
Wow.
So he used to teach, when he was in the Army, he was a sergeant, staff sergeant. And before they went overseas, he taught them, and then he went, they practiced here, how to save themselves.
Now, one of the things that I often ask people as well is what they remember about major historical events. And we've talked quite a bit about World War II.
I remember, believe it or not, I was 8 or 9 years old. I remember the Depression.
I was going to ask you about that.
I remember the Depression so vividly. People were jumping from roofs, and oh my God, it was horrible. Well, the millionaires and billionaires, they lost everything, and they just couldn't cope with it. So they used to commit suicide. It's all you read about in New York and Boston, those tall buildings. Then I also remember, what else? Something else I was going to tell you that I remember. See, the Depression. Oh, of course, Roosevelt and all those. I was older. I remember what's his name? Franklin Roosevelt. Now, we never knew he was crippled. No one knew he was crippled because he'd go around. He always was on the back of a train where the railing is. Nobody ever saw him walking, always in the back. Every town he stopped at was... And the reason was that he didn't want to show that he was crippled because he figured people are not going to vote for me if I'm a cripple. And he turned out to be a good president. I remember the day he died. I remember people were crying on the streets. I remember when the day the war ended, when you couldn't walk out in the street, the people were dancing and singing, and I remember weddings, and I remember my friends, the games we played, the skating at like I said, you should take a walk there. It became dangerous for a while. You couldn't go in there, but now I think it's a little better now.
Now, what about like John F. Kennedy's assassination? Do you remember that?
Oh my God! I was on. My husband and I had taken a ride. My husband used to love to explore different places, and on his day off and we went up in northern Massachusetts. And coming back, it came on the news, and I remember I cried. I cried because it was so sad. He's a smart young man, a beautiful man, and to have his life end. And then his brother, poor Robert, too. What a life how they had. Such bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
And their mother took it so... She was an amazing woman, Rose. Amazing. She never shed a tear in public. And God knows what went through her heart. She lost a boy in the war in England. She lost her daughter. One daughter was mentally deficient, I hate to say. So she went through hell. And her husband was a womanizer.
Is there anything that you have from your recollections that you think people would really be surprised to hear about?
Oh, yes. Anything. Refrigerators. You know how we used to heat a home when I was little? They used to have these oil tanks. If you didn't, in the winter, must have been very hard on my mother. They have the gas stove and the cooking stove, but they attached it to, that's when we had progressed by then. Because before that, we didn't have the oil tanks. and then you'd fill up a tank and you put it, attach it to the stove, and you'd heat the whole house. But the refrigerator is what amazed me. There's been a lot of things but I'm trying to think what else.
So tell me about what were the refrigerators like?
Well, we always, every morning, I can tell you a lot. The refrigerator, we had what they called ice boxes. And every morning the iceman would come by and he'd buy a block of ice and he'd bring it and put it on the top of the refrigerator, in the top plate. And it would melt. But if you didn't have one the next day, everything was spoiled. I also remember we used to order the milk. We didn't buy it. The farmer would come by and they leave it on your doorstep. And on a cold day, you'd go pick up the ice. They didn't pasteurize it then. And the cream you could see the bottle and the cream above the lip, about that high. And we used to fight to cut the ice of, the frozen milk so we could drink it.
Oh, the cream would pop the top.
Yes, right through the cap. It would knock the cap off because the milkman would come about 4 o'clock in the morning, and who's going to get up at 4 o'clock in the winter? And we had cold winters then, a lot of snow and a lot of winters. So I remember, I don't know why I remember that. That impressed me, the refrigerator. Oh, I remember Papa Loja because I thought he was a little kind of strange man because he was strange, but he was my father's friend, so I couldn't. I had to accept him. We had a lot of snow in those years.
So back up on Papa Loja. What is one thing that you remember about him?
I remember everything about it. Years ago, it snowed. We had a lot of snow years ago. You see, up to here the snow would be, and then they didn't plow it because Papa Loja didn't believe in plowing because he said God put it there, let it take it away. So to cross the street now, the snow would be way up. Well, I'd say almost up to the ceiling. And the stores, there were all stores on Main Street, every kind of a store that you can imagine, and they'd cut like a little, because that was a lot of work. Don't forget to cut through the snow to make a little archway to go across the street. I remember that. I remember going to school, but the snow would be up. Now, the minute it rains a little bit, no school. We'd lose our boots. We didn't have boots anyway, but the ones we did have, you'd lose them in the snow. I remember somebody got stuck in the snow. They didn't find him till, thank God, somebody realized that he should have been where he was, and he never showed up, and they found him. The snow was soft and he slid right down. The poor kid was half frozen. His life has improved a lot. What else did I remember? Like I said, we made our own fun. First of all, we ate well, very well. We ate. Our mothers used to make everything. The French people used to make piccalilli. Now, the aroma. Oh my God! I'd smell that and I used to drool. And all my friends were French, and I'd go, they'd come to my house, I'd go to theirs. And the parents would be making it, and I'd say, oh, it smells so good, I'd love to have some. They never offered me because to them piccalilli was peasant food. Right? You know what, the first time I tried piccalilli, I was at camp, and this little French girl with her husband, well, one of our friends married a French girl, and she makes we were talking about the olden days, and I said, oh my God, I says, I'd give anything to smell that piccalilli when they'd make it. She says, really? She came back the next day, she went home, brought me a bottle of piccalilli. Well, I left it at camp, and my family ate it, so I didn't get any. And I didn't want to ask again.
Now, if that's like it's like tomatoes and spices.
Like relish. It's like
yes,
relish.
Exactly like relish.
They put their own spice. Well, years ago they had.
Yeah.
But you know what I did? I sent my son to French kindergarten. The kid came out of there, could speak 3 languages. I swear, he could pray in French, Greek, and French, Greek, and American. And every night that's how much they learned at kindergarten. They were so far advanced than the other places. And I remember my son, they used to have a yard sale, inside, a yard sale. And the people would make poutines and they relished that. I remember my son couldn't wait to have poutines. Oh my God, I never tried one, and they never appealed to me. And what else did they have? Oh, rosary beads. I had to give them away finally. My son would go to these, they'd have a sale every couple of months to make money, and they all would get rid of their, that's when people became liberated. They weren't that religious. And they used to get rid of their, I had more prayer beads.
Now, did you ever learn any French?
Yes, I used to speak French, but I forgot it. I remember a few phrases, and I remember a lot of the Parisian French, but it was useless. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Kamatani, we used to swear. No, we took it up in school, but not the kind of French that you use here.
Now, when you...
I did speak French. We had to communicate with, because the French couldn't speak English either. The Greeks couldn't speak French, and we went to school and we learned the French, but the Greek they never.
How did you keep your Greek language?
I went to Greek school
after you because that's an elementary school, right?
Right.
So after elementary school, how did you keep your Greek language?
Well, my parents spoke. My mother, my father spoke fluent English. My mother, and she used to speak Greek to us. And then when I went to Massachusetts, there were no Greeks. I forgot the language completely. But when I came back, one of my classmates, my best friend, she talked to me Greek one day, and I couldn't remember. And she said, once a day, she says, we're going to communicate in Greek. And she'd call me up a certain time of the day, and I had to speak. That's how it came back.
It's interesting. Okay, let me see. What have you seen in terms of changes of the role of women from when you were young to now?
Oh, my God, women were so... Oh, my God, we couldn't move. Do you know, the Greek people, you couldn't get married unless your parents arranged it. At least the French people, they were able to pick their own husbands. The Greek woman, I picked my own husband, and my father had a heart attack. Because in those days, in other words, your father would come, you stayed home. The groom's side would come to the house with a representative, and they'd sit down and they'd say, I'd like your daughter's hand in marriage. It was a big thing. And that's how they fixed it. My brother never went out with his wife. They arranged it, and he the best marriage. You know Alex Pizza, Andy that owns it now, his mother and father.
So tell me about Alex.
Oh my God, Alec, and I'd like to show you some of the letters he used to write. He and I were very close. He, the most generous man you want to know, first of all. Very gentle. Alec was very, very gentle. He's helped more people that people don't know about. He's given money. He started kids that work for him to open their own businesses. Alex was a very quiet man. He couldn't stand too many people around for some reason. I mean, people he knew, but strangers, he'd freeze up. When he got out of college, he went to California and got a job in one of those big companies, and he didn't like it. So he decided he was going to come back to Maine, and he came back to Maine. And at the time, there weren't that many jobs, just the beginning of all the companies. So he and his friend decided to open a fried chicken, a little place. So they opened it, but Alex didn't like it because he always did office work, so it was kind of hard. So a friend of ours opened a pizza parlor. He was going to open a pizza parlor. And he asked my brother Alec, because he couldn't speak English, the other guy, just come from Greece. And he asked my brother Alec if he would help him with buying stuff, the recipes and all that. And he told my brother, if you do that, I will make you a partner when I open the place. So when the place opened, he says to my brother, he says to Alec, no, I'm not going to, I don't want any partners. So Alex says, really? So he took off. You know where the red lights are, and there's a building from there to the pizza parlor. There was a little store. You had to go up 4 flights of stairs. And he came back to Biddeford. Alex was very smart. His mind always worked. It was very quiet, but his mind would always, he could see things that. So one day he kept going by there, and he thought, very small, he says, but you know what? I think I can handle it if I open the pizza parlor on my own. He didn't know a thing about pizzas.
I was going to say pizza? Not exactly what you think of as a Greek.
But that Greek, that Ernest, I don't know how he learned. He was from Greece. So Alex decided, I'm going to check into the building, and he did, and he decided it's cheap enough. I can afford it. So he, excuse me, I have an allergy, not a cold. So he decided, I'm going to open a very small place, one little small room. And when he did start the place, before he opened it up, he made a lot of pizzas. And he cut them in little pieces, and every Friday, payday, now don't forget, the mills used to pay payday Friday. He went around giving everybody free samples, and then when he opened it, they liked what he offered, and that's how he got started. But Alex was very generous. All the kids that work for him, he sent a lot to college. I have a couple of friends that he started their business. Alex, he was very good, very, very, very generous. He gave the Sweets of Home over $1 million. He gave the, you remember when the poor people, the clinic we had here, they had a little, to honor him after he died, because he gave them a lot of money. He gave every library. People don't know this. He gave the libraries, the Sweets of Home. Sweets of Home, every year he'd buy something, either televisions for the home. But Alex never talked, you never know what he did. But he played the stock market. He did very well in the stock market. So that's how he, by doing that, being so generous, making pizzas just to go to the mills on payday and give them samples. Because don't forget, Alex was a college graduate. He wasn't a pizza maker. Oh, it took him years to the recipe had to be just so. I remember it used to drive me crazy. He wouldn't go out till he got it just the way he wanted it. He'd experiment and experiment.
Now, did you help him with that, or
no?
No,
I was in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I just go there and eat them.
Now, did he ever share any stories about how the community went to Alex Pizza?
Was very shy. My brother Peter, on the other hand, was very an extrovert. But Alex was very shy. He and my brother Peter was crazy. I don't mean crazy, full of fun and playing tricks on everybody. And Alex was as shy as a lamb. But Peter helped him a lot, I think, to get him out of that shell. Because Peter would play tricks on him and laugh. My brother Peter was very happy-go-lucky.
Was your mother and father still around when Alex started that business?
My father had passed away. See, my family also owned the Mayflower. Do you remember the Mayflower?
So tell me about the Mayflower.
It was a restaurant right across from the police station on Elford Street. They started there. But then Alex went into the pizza parlor, but he did well from the very beginning. Because how many companies tried to buy, they told him to make it for them to sell, in the stores. He wouldn't do it. He says no. He made a lot of money because he played the stock market. That helped him.
Now, is it still a family business?
Now it's Andy owns it. Andy and Elizabeth.
Is that his son?
No, that's his nephew. Alec never married.
Okay. Oh, I thought you said there was an arranged...
My oldest brother, Mike, that worked there.
Oh.
Andy, the owner's father that's there now. I mean, his father. It was...
So one of your older brothers had an arranged marriage.
Yeah, the oldest brother.
And that's his name, your oldest brother?
Mike.
That was an arranged marriage.
That was Andy's.
Oh, okay.
Father, the one that owns it now.
Huh. And Alex never married.
He had a lot of girlfriends. But he was very generous. Very good to them. I can see why they hung around. I think I would have to. Alec liked to travel, and he liked to. I was very close to him. We used to go. Take me to New Hampshire. We'd go to New Hampshire to eat Boston. He never. He liked me because he got along good with me because I was more. He was very quiet. He was an introvert, and I was an extrovert. So we had. And my brother Peter, the three of us, the three youngest, we were very, very close.
Because Alex Pizza is like a institution in Biddeford.
Because I remember, like I said, I remember when I was in Massachusetts, but I'd come down if I were here on a Friday, he'd be making the pizzas before he opened, and like I say, it took him years for his recipe. Oh my God, he'd drive me crazy. He tried this, he tried that. Didn't like it, he'd throw it out. It had to be just, he'd stir it, then he'd take a little, no, and then try something else. His sauce is good.
Now tell me about the Mayflower. How long did your family have that?
I don't know, about 10 years, I don't know. My brother Mike and my brother-in-law opened it. And I don't know why they just decided they didn't want to run it because my brother-in-law didn't want to work. I think that was it.
Now, have you done much traveling?
Yes, I love to travel. Now, do you want to know where I've been?
I do.
To Europe, to Italy, Greece, France. No, not France. I've been to Turkey, to South America, the islands, of course. We all go to the islands. The only place I wanted to go all my life, which I regret not doing it, I always wanted to go to Johannesburg, South Africa. I never went there. And guess where else I didn't go? San Francisco. I've been on the border of California, but I never went to the San Francisco. That was my dream, but I didn't.
But you come back here.
I've been, like I said, to quite a few countries in South America, to Europe, quite a few countries in Europe, and to Turkey. I love Turkey.
Tell me what you love about Turkey.
There's a lot of old ancient history, the caves where the apostles, lived, and Jesus, and to think you walked on the same path that Jesus walked. You go inside caves. I'm afraid I have claustrophobia, but I didn't mind going in there because they used to write everything on the walls. And when you get in there, they'd explain it to you. Your mind would be you're so interested in what you're hearing that you don't get claustrophobia. I remember one place that I was the only one in our group that went. We had to climb steps from here to maybe 4 or 5 stories. And that's where Jesus used to, where he sat to write, and the saints. I love Turkey. Turkey's very nice. The baths, the spring bath, what they call them, the spas there. Mm-hmm. And I'm the type, I'm going to go someplace. I'm going to do everything.
Mm-hmm. But yet, after visiting these places, this is still home? Biddeford is home?
Yes. I don't care where you go. It's wonderful. I can travel 6 months out of the year, but still there's no place like home. Home is... How can I explain it? There's no explanation for that. There is something about where you were born and brought up that's different than the other places you go to. They're beautiful when you see them, but then you forget them. Oh, I liked Venezuela. One of my favorite countries, Turkey and Venezuela. Venezuela was right on the water because they were going bankrupt, the country. And all these rich villas that they had built right on the ocean, they couldn't afford them. So they used to rent them to, for tourists. And my girlfriend and I went, we were 4 of us, and we rented one. Oh my God, it was a palace. 2 floors, and then the water and the restaurant. They had their own restaurants and their own entertainment right in that rich area where all the rich people. A steak that big with a big Caesar salad they make it in front of you with those big copper pots, $3. Silver, you could buy a silver ring for maybe $1, because they had all these. Every place you went, they were selling things. I bought so much for everybody, and I don't have anything for myself. Oh, yes, I do. I have one little silver thing.
Okay. So one of the things that I usually like to, well, a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to say, is there anything else that you had thought that you'd want to share with me that maybe we didn't come up because I didn't ask the right question?
No, I think we covered everything. I mean, we talked about what we did when we were children, when we school. Schools were different than they are now. I remember God, I was surprised I can remember these things. When I went to kindergarten, 1st grade. Mm-hmm. Oh God, I remember Miss Goodwin and Miss Milliken. Miss Milliken was in the 5th grade. Those are 2 teachers that I loved the most in grammar school. There was a Miss Pugsley that was Papa Lucia's sister. And then there was Miss Ford was the wild one. Yeah. Teachers weren't as gentle as they are now. You touch a kid now, and they'll have you arrested. We had I'm not going to mention her name anyway, but she was teaching the 5th or 6th grade in every school, and there was a poor little Jewish boy. Why everybody picked on that kid? I don't know why. He was a genius, but he was a genius. You know what they're like. They're kind of. So I guess she had it in for him. So one day he says to him, "Give me a history of, wait a minute, a synopsis of English history." Well, he thought she meant the number, English numbers. Well, he says, no, he thought she meant the story of England. And he started to tell her, and she said, no, when he thought it was the other, he says, nouns, pronouns, verbs, and adjectives. She picked him up by the scruff of the neck, and she opened the door and threw him out. The teachers were rough. If they did that now, they'd hang you.
Did you have homework back then?
Oh, God, yes. We had to write book reports. I was a good student. I did a lot. I had a good life. I can't complain. Mm-hmm.
One of the questions I also like to ask people is, what is something that you'd want to make sure that people take away from hearing your story? That life was still beautiful. Now everything is mechanical, everything is computers, and I find it very hard to live. I took up computers. I went to school, but I don't want a computer. I bought them for my kids, my grandchildren. That is the worst thing that happened. We've lost to communicate with people. Do you know that I was just thinking about it this morning. Do you know that people won't be able to write pretty soon? Do you know how much, when we went to school, we had a special class just for that. They don't know how to write. Have you seen any of the kids writing? Well, next time I get a hold of it, I'll send it to you. Let me tell you, the kids, they're not happy. I've been robbed so many times. Can you imagine stealing my garage? My husband had all antiques all over the wall. They stole everything, my lawnmowers, my cutters, all my husband's antiques, for smoke, a puff of smoke. Now, what a life when you have to steal to smoke. To me, marijuana, drugs is the worst thing that's happened. That's what's going to kill our society, drugs. You agree with me? That's sad. But you found a way to find a lot of joy